Hello everybody. I'm Max Power for the Meat Lovers channel, and this is a brief unboxing and overview of the Orion Digital Spark, and a little bit about why I'm picking it and the ups and downs of that microphone. Now, this is the Digital Spark in front of you, and up here we have my old microphone, which is a normal blue Yeti microphone, which I've been using for a while. I upgraded to it when I started doing my StarCraft cast for the channel, because I felt like the audio quality on my old Gen 1 mixing from Astro Gaming was terrible. So I went to that microphone, and it's a good microphone. It's really great, and it had some ups and downs. Ups and downs we'll go through a little bit later. But at first, we're going to look at what's inside this box. So here we have the back of the box. Studio refined, yada yada yada, a bunch of marketing stuff. This, as you'll note, is the Lightning plus USB connectors version. There is a Apple 30-pin version as well, which was surprisingly a lot more expensive. I don't think they're making that a lot anymore because the 30-pin connector is pretty much donezo now. Like, you have to be all the way back at the iPhone 4S or something to still be using one of those. So most people have upgraded from that. So basically, this is a digital version of the Spark microphone, a cardioid microphone from Blue. And let's see, it's been up here in the top. And the interesting thing about it is that they've basically just sort of made it a USB microphone. It's not very feature heavy compared to the Yeti microphones, especially. Here we have the manual. It doesn't really say a lot. There's not really a lot to say. The Spark is not very complicated. It has basically one dial and one setting. And that's the gain setting and so forth. And here we go. So we're gonna open up this lid here, and we're gonna get inside the box. So first we have this carrying pouch. Kind of the idea of this microphone is it's supposed to be pretty portable as well. And inside here we have, it's a really nice actually, and we have a few cords here. We have two of them. Basically, the Spark is a little bit interesting. It has an analog headphone connection, but it's in the cable actually, as you can see here. It's a little bit weird. And that's in both cables, so both the Lightning and the other one has this on one end, basically. And here we have the Lightning connector and the regular USB for the computer here. There we go. I don't know if I showed the Lightning connector properly here. There we go. So put that aside, and we'll have a look in here in the cardboardness here. So here we have the insides. Basically, there's the mount and the microphone. So the mount is kind of cool, as you can tell, because it actually has a built-in shock mount, which is a really nice plus. The Yeti microphones, as well as the Snowball, but especially the Yetis, I feel, has a lot of issues not having a mount built into the actual stand, which has the major downside of you basically doing this little thing on the table will sound like you're drumming at the microphone. It's ridiculous. Like, you need a shock mount for a microphone like this. And especially because these are USB microphones, so you're going to be using them with computers most of the time, you're going to need a shock mount. And for something like the Spark here, where it's supposed to be portable as well, it's really nice that it just comes with this shock mount right off the bat. I think that's one of the greatest things about this product, actually. One of the things that will make me recommend it, actually, is because the investment is so much less, because you don't have to buy a lot of stuff afterwards. You don't have to buy both a shock mount and an arm, which I had to do for my Yeti, which is actually a pretty substantial expense, meaning that this is actually cheaper than the Pro, and actually even than the regular Yeti, once you've bought all the stuff for it that you need. To make it at all useful, at least for most people. For me, I needed some kind of shock mount to, make it usable. So onto the actual microphone over here. This is the Digital Spark. This little gothic, weird-looking thing. Basically, you have a mute button right there, and you can, and there's a gain thing. If you roll this, you get gain, and then the little lights shine. The higher the gain. Has one setting down here. It's called Focus, which basically rolls off the bass at about 100 hertz. To start rolling off pretty heavily. They recommend this for audio recording. I don't really find it very useful. I have a very deep voice, as you can probably hear, and at least from what I've been told, it does not improve my voice. I just sounded really weird when all those when that frequency's gone. So I can see the upsides to it, I guess, but it's sort of an odd feature. Like when you look at something like the Yeti, it's very feature heavy. You'll have things like different modes and such that this just doesn't have. It doesn't have an XLR either. You have this at the end, the regular USB thingy, which I think is pretty much it's kind of weird. I can't really quite tell if it's like a proprietary connector. It doesn't seem like it is, but it has that headphone analog thing also. So I think it might be. It's a little bit weird, but the one downside to that is that you'll have a pretty short cable to work with and you can't really change it. But so yeah, let's set it up for a moment and have a look at what it looks like when it's set up in a shock mount. And there you have it in its mount. Looks pretty. I'm gonna record some different stuff with Audacity, so you can hear the differences between it and the Yeti. I'm also gonna demonstrate it, the Yeti in its mount, so you can hear what that sounds like. And the issues that I have with that, and I'm going to go through the ups and downs of this microphone. So this is the Blue Microphones Digital Spark, recording using Audacity, and it is set to maximum gain, 85 volume in Windows 10, and the using of course the regular USB cable. Now, what I've noticed using the Digital Spark is that it seems to be has a very narrow collection pattern, which is very good. It doesn't pick up nearly as much ambient noise, which also makes sense because it's supposed to be sort of an on-the-road microphone as well. And so it's really good. It has a lot of properties I really like, and one of the most surprising things about it has been how good it is at not picking up little things, not just because of the shock mount. It doesn't pick up things like this where I roll my fingers on the keyboard or on the table. It's not nearly as loud, which is kind of surprising considering how the Blue microphones usually are. They have a tendency to sort of awkwardly pick up ambient noises and amplify them quite significantly. My cousin has a snowball, and when a dog is barking nearby, it sounds like it's in the room with him. My Yeti tends to pick up people talking outside my window. Even when I lived on the first floor, people talking outside the window, not very loudly, barely audible, would sound like they were in the room with me. And these are some pretty significant problems that the Spark does not seem to have issues with, which is really nice. I mean, the Spark seems to be just a better microphone overall. It has more panache. It picks up a better bass, better deep tones, I think, and sounds generally a lot better. It is more of a studio-oriented microphone, where I feel like the Yeti is more of a computer microphone, if you can say that. It also has a lot more features, which of course to some people are going to be very useful, but to me personally, I don't really care. I just want a cardio microphone. I want it to sound good. I want it to be good. And this is the one downside to it, the one massive major downside to it right now, is that to get any kind of properly audible levels out of it, you really have to turn it really up quite high. Like the maximum gain is what I'm using right now. I would like to have a little bit more leeway there. But then again, I mean, if you do turn up to maximum, you do get noise. So keeping it at 80, 85 and maxing the gain seems to be the way to go, at least for me so far, in order to keep the noise down and still have an audible level to send out of the computer. But yeah, so far I think it's really quite good. So let's try listening to the Yeti and hear what the differences are there. Although actually, right now that I remember before that, I'm going to turn on the focus mode so you can hear what the differences are. So focus mode switch is on the back here. I'm just going to turn that on. There we go. And you should be able to hear a bit of a difference there. Apparently this should sort of roll off at 100 hertz, so a lot of sort of the subwoofer kind of area there is going to be missing. Now I'm only speaking, I have a very deep voice, so that's probably going to be impacted anyway, but that should of course change the thing a little bit. But they do recommend this for voice recordings. I have not listened to it that much, but I personally don't think that maybe that's the best way to go. So let's turn that off again and then hear it a little bit without it again. Hopefully you're going to hear a difference back and forth here. I would probably not use it myself. Yeah, that is the one feature basically of this microphone. It's very feature light, but it's good at what it does, sort of more simple. So let's move on to the Yeti. And this is the Blue Microphone's Yeti. So this is the Yeti set to the lowest gain, the cardioid mode, hanging where you saw it earlier, or where you're seeing it now, and 75 volume in Windows, so you know what you're listening to, and it's recorded through Audacity. It's hanging on the Rode Podcaster arm using the Snowball shock mount, which you can sort of jerry-rig together with the Yeti using, if you buy a screw at the hardware market. There's a guide on YouTube that's really quite good for that. Which is still useful even though the shock mount is back now. When I did this, it was because the real Yeti shock mount was not out. Currently, it is out again. There's a version 2, but it's quite a bit more expensive as far as I can tell. It'll cost quite a bit more, somewhere between 50 and 80% more than the other shock mount for the Snowball. So it's quite a big price premium considering that the Spark just comes with a shock mount right off the bat. And actually means that this microphone costs quite a bit more than it would otherwise do. Actually, it's probably right now, if you buy it with the shock mount, even without the arm, just the shock mount of the Yeti, you are going to get a much more expensive microphone than the Spark is currently. At least when I bought it from Amazon, it would be more expensive at the time. So as for the sound of the Yeti does pick up, it's much louder than the Spark is, which makes it kind of better for some scenarios. It sounds quite good, actually. It's all right. As long as you keep it in the cardioid mode, it sounds fine. It does pick up more ambience, which is my big issue with it. Not only is it more expensive than you think because you're going to have to pick up a shock mount, there's no way around it. It simply is unusable standing on a desk with its usual mount. You cannot use it. You just have to factor that into your purchasing decision, that that's what you're going to have to do, which I think is a major downside. The other downside is the room. It picks up a lot of reverberance from the room, even in the cardioid mode. It's very prone to picking up the sort of second harmonic distortion, if you want to call it that, sort of the reverberance of everything you say or you record. It really picks that up, and that has a major downside of making it sort of sound like it's in a tin can. That sort of is in the small room where it's hitting all these reverberations of the sound, and that is a pretty big downside. The other thing is that I don't think the bass is picked up nearly as articulately, and that also sort of brings out this sort of the thinner and tinnier sound of the Yeti. The Yeti is not a bad microphone. It's quite good. Were it the price it actually is, then it probably would be more price competitive, but I really don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to go for the Pro version, which is has some improvement in terms of these areas of weakness of the Yeti, in terms of picking up less ambient audio, less room reverberation, and having a generally better sound quality. But then again, the Spark is just ironically a lot cheaper once you factor in all the equipment you're going to need. That you can basically just get this, put it on the standard mount, and put it in front of you, and it's going to be fine. You're not going to need to do anything. But when you buy the Yeti, if you're going to put it on a desk that you're at, which you most likely are, if you hit that desk at all in any kind of a way, even just the little hitting it with your fingers as I did earlier on the Spark, it's going to be really loud in the standard mount. So just trust me, it's unusable. So that's a pretty big downside to me. So I hope you've liked listening to this. I think I can sort of just come out here and say that I am definitely a big fan of the Digital Spark. I'm very happy with my purchase, and I hope that other people will find this useful. So this has been Max Power for the Meat Lovers channel, and goodbye.